What's the same and what's different? What ties us together and what separates us? What unites us as technical people and what acts as a barrier between us and between our work? Hi, I'm David Allen Greer for the Global Code. These questions form the basis of today's episode, which is entitled The Russian Tragedy. Traveling through the global computing community, we tend to see fundamental uniformity and only superficial variation. Our international colleagues solve the same kind of problems that we do. Our devices can link to the local Wi-Fi networks, even though some people pronounce it Wi-Fi. Our data and our programs slip into distant countries without even slowing for a customs inspection at the border. We can become so accustomed to this uniformity that we can be surprised when someone from our very community questions its value. A Russian acquaintance once told me that global uniformity was a grave mistake. He worked for a Russian-language software magazine and was trying to give me some insight into his country's software industry on a cold, bitterly cold Moscow night. We marched through the swirling snow as he argued that Russia had constrained its software industry by adopting American computer architectures in the 1960s and 1970s. Instead, he thought they should have developed indigenous Russian designs. To the contrary, most commentators have said that the Russian government, which was then the government of the Soviet Union, had made a wise choice in copying the architectures of the IBM 360, the PDP-11, the Apple II. However, my acquaintance rejected this idea, saying that the Soviet Union had not been able to use these machines efficiently. He finally added, "It tied us to America." I felt that this experience with Western architectures must have helped establish the Russian software industry during its early years of the 1990s. At that point, new Russian firms could claim very few advantages over the legacy software companies. None had experience in a competitive market. None could finance their growth with income from a profitable database or operating system or office productivity package. These companies grew to represent about 2.5% of the global software market. Combined, they now earn about $10 billion in annual revenue, with roughly $6.5 billion coming from export sales and the other $3.5 billion from the domestic market. Though Russia does not have a dominant brand, such as Google or Alibaba, it does have some prominent international firms in the software industry, such as AABYY, Luxoft, and Kaspersky Labs. Now, the latter dominates the markets of many economically developed countries, including the US and Germany, according to the Russian trade association Rusov. Several companies, such as the search engine Yandex or the communications platform Mail.ru, dominate the internal Russian market. Finally, Moscow and St. Petersburg have become international centers of software development and are home to about half the Russian software industry. In spite of its success, there seems to be a barrier between the Russian software industry and its international counterparts. The most recent Rusov industry report reads like a Russian tragedy. It bemoans the estate having been lost. The family is now unable to cope with changes in society. The children cannot find roles for themselves in the world. The situation in the world, and within Russia for Russian software companies, has somewhat changed for the worse, the recent Rusov report begins. That report cites the weakening of the ruble and the decline in exports due to anti-Russian sanctions, as well as negative reports in the global media. These problems, the report claims, come from forces that lie outside the technological industries. It identifies foreign governments that disagree with the Russian approach to Ukraine and Edward Snowden, and also the foreign media, which criticizes Russian technology. It is as if this media fulfilled an order to drive out Russian business from the major markets of geopolitical competitors of Russia, the report concludes. One cannot help but compare this campaign with the squeezing of Russian sportsmen out of the Olympic Games in Brazil. Like all great Russian tragedies, the Rusov report is a tragedy of context. It argues that the Russian software industry is a good industry with honorable people, but it's unable to fulfill its potential because of the perfidy of outsiders. Here is where it reveals its true unity with the software industries of other nations. We've all been told, and we all believe, that software is an innovative technology that creates wealth, improves health, expands knowledge. It is more powerful than any institution that tries to hold it back. Yet, software will not protect its practitioners from the intrigue of nations, from attacks on political institutions, or the failures of economies. That, perhaps, is the key unity of the Russian tragedy. This has been David Allen Greer for the Global Code. Take care.